All right, so it looks like there is some lag between the stream and the video that lasts about, I want to say, 15 seconds. So ignore that section of me just looking around awkwardly and welcome to my stream. This is the first stream I'm doing for the campaign to tell you about me and why I'm running. Bear with me a little bit. I'm pretty experienced streaming, but not as much being the subject of the stream. Most of my experience is just streaming the NET legislature videos. So what we can do while I'm sort of also just stalling to get more people watching, what you can do right now to help me out is comment on this video and share it with your friends so that I can get my message out there. So why I'm running, as I said, I have experience streaming NET videos of the legislature. So while I was doing that over the early months this year, I had a lot of fun learning uh, procedural rules that they were going through, all sorts of other stuff, and most importantly, policy and who was bringing good policy that I liked, and who was bringing bad policy that I didn't like. And seeing that these state senators, they're just regular people like you and me. And I got to thinking, well, if I don't like what they're doing, or I do like what they're doing, I can go and be a part of that. I can go put forward bills that I do want to happen. I can go prevent those bills that I don't want. And I want to help. Sorry, I don't have a script for this, and I don't ordinarily speak unscripted, so this is just a little nerve-wracking for me. One thing in particular that I think our legislature isn't addressing that they should is climate change. We know that in the next decade we have, as a planet, a finite uh, carbon budget, if you will. We can only put so much more carbon in the atmosphere before we hit a point of no return. And government leaders should be addressing this on every level, from state to federal to international governments. And we won't be having those conversations. It looks like we're not having those conversations where we need to on the federal level. And a lot of that is getting people on board. Part of getting people on board is talking to voters down ballot, talking about it at every level we can. So that's one reason. That's the first reason I'll go off of as to why I'm running. Another uh, I just see some heroes in the legislature that I really would like to emulate. One of them is Michaela Cavanaugh, Senator Cavanaugh, who I saw something from her that I did not expect to see on the floor of the legislature. I expected to see people like Adam Morfeld and Patty Pants Brooks fighting vigorously for the bills and the things they believe, but I didn't expect to see the emotion from Senator Kavanaugh. And that's just something that I admire so much, to be able to be freely open with her emotions like that. And I really should have written the script because I'm just all over the place right now. That's one of the things I want to talk about relating to mental health. Part of over the last month, while I've been getting ready to run, and the months before that, I've had a lot of anxiety. And throughout my life, I've dealt with anxiety and depression. And I think it's important to talk about, to let people know that a lot seem incredibly overwhelming, but it's incredibly normal. A lot of people experience imposter syndrome, which is where you may be perfectly qualified for something, but you don't feel qualified. You feel like people around you are going to figure out that you're a fraud, that you don't belong where you do. And part of this campaign that I want to be front and center is telling people that they do. And over the last week, it's been amazing to see all the support that came out that I wasn't feeling like would come out before I announced. And I just want to thank everyone who reached out to me, whether that's just liking a post that I do, calling or texting me, and to give their support. It means so much. It really keeps me going. Now, I suppose I haven't actually shared much like personal info about me, so I'll go into that a little bit. Uh, Once again, feel free to ask questions in the comments here, and it can be anything from my favorite color, however many scars I have, if you're interested in that sort of thing, to more complex questions about my political philosophy. So, as to some biographical information, I was born in Ulysses, Nebraska, which is a village of about 200 people, about half an hour north of Seward, Nebraska. I Fun fact, I weighed about 11 and a half pounds when I was born, which is kind of twice the ordinary weight. Most babies weigh around 6 pounds and whatnot, so bless my mother. Uh, so I grew up in Ulysses, went to school in Seward. After graduating in 2012, I moved to Crete to go to school at Doane College. Now it's Doane University. Oh, fun fact, my senior year is the year they changed their name, and they would have asked me to pay, I think it was like 25 or 50 bucks to get university on my degree instead of college, which there's no way I'm doing that, right? I At Doane, I studied mathematics. While at Doane, I also enlisted in the National Guard, where I currently serve. I actually just signed a 6-year reenlistment contract. And the last couple of years, I've started getting involved in politics, particularly in the Democratic Party, just because I feel like I could make some structural change there, which I have some headway, and also watching the legislature, where, as I mentioned earlier, I also feel I can bring some positive change. So, the last couple of years, apart from working in the National Guard, I've also been working at True Value here in town, just a small local hardware store where it's fun to just solve people's problems, try to find creative solutions when they don't exactly have the part they need or they don't really know what part they need. So now I think it's about time to look into the comments for some questions. By the way, I'm planning on doing this sort of thing, this live video, probably every other week, maybe every week if we get enough interest in this sort of thing. I really want to run just an incredibly transparent campaign where I can always be updating you guys and always available for questions. I also, as an activist in the past, I've sought out opportunities to question candidates live, in person, get them on the record, so to speak. Pardon me. So I want to give that opportunity as much as I can. I think live streaming is a great way to do it, since theoretically anyone in the world could ask me a question, and here I am to answer it. And I also think it shows just a little bit how it shows how I'm at least a little bit tech savvy. And that, I think, is something else the legislature could use, since they can't seem to figure out how to upload their legislative videos to YouTube. And that's pretty easy. So anyway, into the comments. I see that Robert Way likes cherry Starburst, and I'm afraid to say you're wrong, buddy. I I love everything else about you, but cherry, sorry. Pink Starburst, that is the correct answer, Austin. Do I listen to any podcasts from Austin as well? I do. I listen to a lot of NPR, and I subscribe to specifically Up First and the NPR Politics podcast. I like Up First just because it's usually only 10-15 minutes and it gives me what news I want. I listened to a lot of podcasts in college, and that was sort of a huge community builder for me, since I didn't really. As an atheist, there aren't a lot of ways for me to find community. I don't go to church every Sunday and find a community that way that a lot of people enjoy. And sort of searching for that community, it's hard to organize around something that isn't exactly a thing. And we have no individual beliefs binding us together and whatnot. So I listened to some podcasts. One great one that I still listen to today is Opening Arguments, which is done by a lawyer and a layperson who interviews the lawyer about current news topics. They originally, I think, started in 2016, and they were expecting to cover Hillary Clinton and probably have more fun with it. But now they're covering Donald Trump, and it seems like they're not having the best time, which I think a lot of us can relate. Robert Way asked my views on Medicaid expansion. Let me go back a couple years and tell you, before I get into any specifics on that, tell you sort of my healthcare story. So, my family wasn't very wealthy growing up, like at all. I don't know if I mentioned I have 4 brothers and sisters, one older sister, 2 older brothers, and 1 younger sister. Oh no, did I? Okay, never mind. I thought I cut out there. Uh, so 4 siblings. Uh, while I was growing, my father is self-employed commercial painter. Sorry, my father was a self-employed commercial painter. Oh, okay, this is freezing and cutting out. Let me see if I can figure this out. All right. Well, I have it recording, so hopefully the stream will catch up, and if not, I can just upload the. So my family never had a lot of money, and part of that being the 4th kid is a lot of anxiety, stress about causing my parents another financial. And when that comes to healthcare, that means not wanting to go to the hospital ever, because you experience those healthcare, you see everything about those healthcare costs, and you don't want anything to do with that, especially not for your parents who have been so supportive of you. I think a lot of us millennials also understand that. I still hesitate to go to the doctor, and right now I need to go see my ENT specialist again to get a prescription filled. and I've just been putting it off because money's a little tight right now. But how this impacted my life the most is in high school. I went to school one day with just this horrible stabbing pain in my stomach. I end up going to the bathroom and puking, and puking at school is the sign that you get to go home. So went home. I slept it off. I was hoping it was just the flu. A day later, it was pretty clear that it wasn't. So my brother drives me to the hospital, and turns out I have appendicitis. And I sit there in the waiting room waiting for insurance to clear for like 4 hours. And then my appendix bursts, I get it taken out, and I wake up and stay in the hospital for a week on antibiotics because I got sick. I have no clue how my family would have paid for that if it weren't for the generosity of some hospital donors who forgave that debt. And I know, talking to people in the community, talking to people who have to choose between insulin and food, childcare, and medicine for their child, that we have a healthcare crisis, not just in this country, but in Nebraska. And I am 100% in favor of Medicaid expansion, especially since the voters already voted on it. We, as Nebraskans, already voted to expand Medicaid, and the legislature and the governor are slow rolling its expansion, and that is not okay. The, the voters spoke, and the legislature needs to act. I hope that answers. That was a long walk for a somewhat short drink of water, but I hope that satisfied your question, Robert. Oh, it is fine on your end? Oh man, I just wasted a lot of your time on that then. My view on women's reproductive rights. That, let's see. So, when was that? I can't remember when, but Senator Albright promised that next session she would be bringing a heartbeat bill. And that's when I was looking around. That's when I seriously started looking around saying, who's going to run and who is going to help in this district to prevent that. Now, next session, I won't be there to help, but I will be on the steps of the Capitol rallying against a bill, against that bill if it comes. And then once I'm in the next year, it's still not getting through. If it did get through, which it won't, it'll be repealed. I will work as hard as I can on that. LB 209 passed this last year, which requires our Nebraska doctors to lie to women about medical abortions, saying that it can be pumped full of progesterone and it can be reversed, which is based on this absolute junk science. So, in short, my view on women's reproductive rights is it's none of my business, it's none of the government's business. A woman's choice to have an abortion is incredibly personal, and there's no reason to make it any harder. I think that the bigger issue here, if we genuinely want the abortion rate to fall, which I I think it could be considered a noble cause. If we genuinely want that, we have to have a serious conversation about sex ed in our state. Because I know my sex ed, we were taught that girls are spaghetti and boys are waffles. And that doesn't teach you how to not have sex. That teaches you how to treat women like they can't think, and how to treat boys like they don't need to have emotions. We need to address our healthcare issues and make sure that women are having healthy pregnancies if they want them, so that they don't have to have emergency abortions to save their life. We need to make sure that contraceptive coverage is available. We need all sorts of these other issues are so much more important than regulating a woman's uterus. And that actually brings me back a little bit. In 2012, during that presidential election, Joe Biden, the vice presidential debate between Joe Biden and Paul Ryan was actually when I first, uh, that was the first time I called myself a Democrat. It was Joe Biden's answer to this very same question, where I think it's probably the most eloquent Joe Biden has ever been. But he said that as a Catholic, he was personally against abortion. Sorry. But that he didn't think his Catholic views should influence his views on government at all. And he doesn't think it's the government's place to regulate women's abortions. And that's when I realized that, like, even I don't know how to say this well, but that's when I first called myself a Democrat. And I find it ironic now that I don't support Joe Biden near as much. It's a catalyst for my democratic beliefs, but that's neither here nor there. Do I support Planned Parenthood's efforts to provide women's health care? Yes. Planned Parenthood provides so much more than abortion services. Abortion services are minuscule in their services. And not just women's healthcare, they provide healthcare for men, LGBTQ folk. They provide important sex education that people get. They provide all sorts of services for low income people that ordinarily wouldn't get it. And yes, I 100% support Planned Parenthood and their efforts to provide healthcare. What do I think distinguishes me from Senator Hilgers in a way that constituents might most connect with? Let me think on that for a minute. So one thing that I think distinguishes me from Hilgers is a a genuine desire to want to connect with you, the people watching this, and the voters. Uh, I testified on several bills this last session in person. I wrote senators letters, including Senator Hilgers, and I called Senator Hilgers' office probably like at least 20 times this last session. Senator Hilgers sent me one letter, and it was so I called him like even just 6 times just on one bill. I called him one time on another bill. I think it was a vote by mail access bill that I hadn't researched fully. I researched enough, and I heard from people I trusted enough that I supported it, and I urged him to support it as well. That is the one bill he sent me a letter on, where he said, "Thanks for your interest in this bill. We're looking into it." And I just found that letter to be incredibly disingenuous. Sure, I expressed interest in that bill with one phone call, but I expressed so much more interest in all these other bills where I called 6 or 7 times and I actually walked to the legislature to tell them about my concerns. So I think that's my biggest uh, point of the biggest thing that distinguishes us. I never want to be the kind of person that ignores you when you call 6 times about one thing and then sort of shrugs you off when you call about one other thing that you care just a little bit less about. All right. Well, we've been doing this for about half an hour, and I don't see any more questions in the queue. I want to thank you all for coming and listening to this and submitting your questions. Uh, come back in 2 weeks. Also, oh, one question that a lot of people have had when I've been meeting them in person or talking to them on the phone is how can they help with my campaign? Right now, the best way you can help with my campaign is donating, and I will provide a link here in the description, which I can actually do right as we're talking. Just give me 1 second. There it is. Donate and share the campaign with your friends. That's the biggest thing right now. Right now, I'm learning how to use VAN, the Voter Access Network, and I'm looking to hire some staff to help me out with that so I can just focus on knocking doors in the next couple weeks. Oh, real quick, Tom Gray, a friend of mine, has one last question. How will your military service inform your work in the legislature? I don't exactly know. Um, Obviously, there are some issues where I'll probably have some direct contacts with people in the military because I'm also in the military about some issues that are affecting us. But I think a bigger thing is in the military, you learn skills such as discipline and respect that I think are important to bring to a deliberative body such as our unicameral. Our legislators need the discipline to get to work hard, to write the bills, to vet the bills, to make sure they don't do any unintended harm, to make sure they build a broad coalition of support for it. And we also need respect for our other lawmakers, even when we disagree. We saw a lot of divisiveness this last session. That some of it honestly was warranted, and a lot of it was unwarranted and just built on ignorance and a lack of respect. I don't want to say that those traits are exclusive to the military, though they are definitely a part of a structured education military. And I think that's one thing that will definitely inform my work in the legislature. So thank you all for your questions. Once again, like the page, follow me on Facebook or on Twitter and Instagram. Donate if you can. Find your friends who can donate. Find your friends in LD21 and send them my way. I would love to talk to them. And with that, thank you all once again for watching and have a good night.